So here I have the chart of Paramahamsa Yogananda. Okay, this is the example we are going to use. In this case, his birth time is 5th of January 1893 at 20:34 at 28 seconds. Place of birth is India, okay, and Gorakhpur. That's the one you have to use. So in case of Paramahamsa Yogananda, we have already analyzed this chart quite extensively in the beginning, but in this case I will explain why he becomes a saint and what are the significant things you have to look for, and some missing points, some other interesting details. Okay, if you have been on the Kala group in the past, I've also done this analysis once on the delineations. You might try to look up on Yahoo if you still have an access to those emails about how I did this analysis. I go through more details in the Vargas and everything. It was actually a comparison, but you can try to find if it is there. Otherwise, in a future video, I will still cover all of these details more extensively in the next course. Okay, so let's start. Again, interestingly, Paramahamsa Yogananda gets a Leo ascendant. Continuously, we have been seeing charts with Leo and Cancer ascendant. So I'm also a bit tired, just like you, about them. So we are going to come back and see if there are other charts in the next examples which are not Leo or Cancer ascendant. Okay, but also you can learn from this, because I did not do this deliberately, but it does happen to be Leo or Cancer ascendant. But your skill is now tested, right? You'll see the placements are different, and now you need to learn to read the same ascendant with different placements of the planets. Okay, and these people, they have Mars is a very important planet for them, but you'll see the importance of Mars in different ways in all these charts. Okay, so it's still an example and it's worthwhile and it's very useful to know how I read it and how you can improve on reading it. Okay, anyhow, I've not shown all the techniques I know in this videos, but just pay attention to how the things change. Okay, even though it's the same ascendants, Cancer or Leo, still significantly the reading differs. Okay, so that's the important message that you have to take. Okay, so for him, he gets Leo ascendant with Moon in the ascendant. Moon is actually the 12th lord. Okay, we will come back to that point in a bit. Then he gets Saturn in Libra, Ketu and Uranus in Scorpio in the Mars sign, Venus and Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius in the 5th cusp. Okay, Sun is in the sign of Capricorn in the 6th Rashi. Then Mars and Jupiter are in the sign of Aries. Okay, and then Rahu is in the sign of Taurus. Pluto and Neptune is in the sign of Gemini. Okay, this is his placement. If you go to the cards, you'll see the same things juxtaposed here. I've already explained this in an early video. So let's just see how things change for him in terms of the spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts. Okay, so we know from the summary of the nine of spades, the maximum cards they get is actually equally spades, hearts, and diamonds. So what about Paramahamsa Yogananda? In his case, he gets 4 planets in the King of Diamond, 2 planets which are Saturn and Rahu also in the Two of Diamond. So he gets 6 planets in the diamond suit, alright, which is already shifting towards a diamond thing. Then he gets 2 planets in the clubs, which is the Jupiter card, and then 2 planets in the hearts, which is the Mercury card. This Mercury card is having Pluto and Neptune, and he gets another moon in the Two of Hearts. So he gets 3 planets in the hearts, 6 planets in the diamonds, 2 planets in the clubs, only 1 planet in the spade, okay, which is the Jack of Spade. So the spades now are actually deficit, and hearts are having 3 planets, clubs are secondarily deficit. Okay, so there is only 2 club planets here, which is Mercury and Venus. It's going to be very interesting for him, I will explain later. But see the diamond here and how important it becomes, that enormous amount of diamond surplus going on here, especially the King of Diamond and the Two of Diamonds. Okay, And one important point to note already is that the diamonds and spades are the best when it comes to spirituality. Okay, so I've already mentioned this point in an early video, and spades are the best when it comes to spirituality and overcoming the limitations within the self. But the diamonds culminate everything. Okay, so they go through the cycle of spade, hearts, clubs, and then come back to the diamond. So if you know the houses in astrology, so you can see here, this is the first house, second, third, and fourth. So this is the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and this will repeat in the same order again. Okay. So if you take that sequence, the fourth is actually connected to moksha, and the fourth suit does have a moksha flavor. Okay, it's not any surprise that the diamonds are, quite spiritual. You'll probably think that these people are meant to be, having materialistic desires and be part of the world and participate in the world and all of that, which they will do. It's not like they won't. And most often, many spiritual gurus, whether they like it or not, they will be part of the world. Okay, but don't underestimate the diamonds when it comes to spirituality, and don't ever underestimate the diamonds when it comes to skills, especially. Okay, so that's a very important thing, and there's a tendency to think that okay, the clubs are the ones that will give the skills, but it's not true. It's the diamonds which are really quite powerful when it comes to skills. Okay, especially if it's a face card, and especially if it's the court cards, the kings and the queens. You have to really pay attention to them. Okay, so that's what we will see in the case of Paramahamsa Yogananda soon. So we already know it's a diamond centered cards of truth, the spread for him, the nine of spades. So let's first go back to astrology. And in this case, okay, he's a saint. At the end of the day, he was an enlightened being, and he's known to be a very good articulate speaker. Okay, he had established schools and spiritual ashrams, and he has written books. Okay, and he's given motivation speeches, and he's trained people to be yogis on the path of Kriya Yoga. Okay, and any form of yoga basically is in the same realm. So all this we need to understand now from his chart. Does it make sense? Is it going to add up? If tomorrow someone gives you this chart, can you tell it's the chart of a spiritual person? And what are the clues you'll find to tell this is a chart of a spiritual person? That's the first thing you want to do at a quick glance. Okay, so let's start here. First, let's just take out the easy professions for him. So in this case, the moon, the Atmakaraka, is in the sign of Leo in the Rashi chart, and is Rashi aspecting the sign of Aries, which is holding the ninth cusp, and also Jupiter, who is the other planet of writing. Okay, so Jupiter rules the fifth cusp, and also the two planets of writing, which is Mercury and Venus. Okay, that's important, and that's connecting to the ninth Rashi as well. The fifth Rashi and ninth Rashi are connected. Moon is aspecting and taking care of it. Okay, then Atmakaraka year is in an odd sign. So if you have to count forwards here, you'll notice Moon is also Rashi aspecting the third cusp, and fourth from the Moon will be aspected by Jupiter, and fifth from the Moon he will have Venus and Mercury. So he has all the combinations for a writer, even by aspects, even by position. Okay. For teaching, the simplest clue you want to pick first is the 10th cusp is falling in the Rashi of Venus. Of course, this can make someone a politician, it can also make someone an actor, it can make someone a writer, it can make someone got to do with entertainment, or even an artist, or even a financially centered person. But why teaching here? The clue is yes, the 10th cusp is in the sign of Taurus, but the 10th lord is in the 5th house, which can make, of course, have connections to teaching as well as entertainment. Okay, and of course, anything got to do with creativity. The clue comes from seeing that first connection. Then, of course, here Venus rules the third cusp, which is that of initiatory instructions, right? And he is in the 5th house, conjunct Mercury, the second lord of speech. So now we have a connection to speech as well as speaking, which is leaning towards teaching profession. Then the 5th cusp lord, which is Jupiter, is in the 9th, ruling Venus and Mercury. So definitively we have connection to teaching as well as counseling here, the ninth house. Okay, and religion and philosophy. The other bigger clue you want to catch is the clue of the sign of Sagittarius, which has got to do with religion and philosophy. Okay, it's the sign of preaching. So if you see those two clues, now you can be certain. That's when the Rashis and the details of the Rashis become very important. Okay. Next, after this, you can also notice one more easy profession for writing. That is, Mercury is the biggest clue here. Mercury rules the second cusp, alright, and is also conjunct the third cusp lord, which can always give you a clue about media and entertainment. And of course, he was connected to media and entertainment, right? He was appearing in many occasions where he was interviewed and such. And he's also connected to the entertainment planet, which is Venus. But again, the entertainment here is more towards Sagittarius and preaching, right? Being recorded or speaking at public offices for religion purposes. That's the Jupiter. Okay, that's the important clue. Then, if you have to check the same things in the Navamsha, it's pretty straightforward here. In the Navamsha, Moon is in a sign of Scorpio, which is an even sign. So you have to count backwards here. And Moon, when you start counting backwards, he gets second from that, he gets Mercury, which is one of the writing planets. Third from that, he gets Venus, another writing planet. Fourth from that, he gets Jupiter, which gives all the writing combinations once again. Okay. But we need the important houses connected here. Mercury rules the third cusp and is in the second from the Moon. Alright. Jupiter rules the fifth cusp and ninth cusp and is in the fourth from the Moon. That connects those combinations. Okay. When it comes to teaching, it is the same situation. You have to start finding the clues for the Moon. Here, Moon is not going to be the straightforward connection. In the Navamsha, the easiest connection to find is Venus again. Venus is in the 10th Rashi, is conjunct the 10th cusp. Okay, so he becomes a career planet. He is ruled by Mercury. Mercury and Venus are forming a Mahaparivartan Yoga in the Navamsha. That is another reason that he is famous and he's got a lot of success in the world between the 10th Rashi and the 11th Rashi, which has got to do with status, which has got to do with the gains and all of that. Okay, but here it's happening between two skilled planets. One is Venus and the other is Mercury. So he's famous for his autobiography, which is a book, that is Mercury, and also for his teaching, which is Venus. That's an important clue once again. Okay. And even the sixth cusp is participating here. That is the cusp of celibacy. And Venus is debilitated and conjunct the sixth cusp. So he's famous for his celibacy, which of course is important for a saint. That's another clue. Okay. Going back to that combination for teaching, Venus is conjunct 10th cusp. He becomes a career planet. His Rashi aspecting the third cusp. He rules. Mercury rules the third cusp. Okay. And then he Rashi aspects the fifth cusp of students and the ninth cusp of preaching. All that is taken care by Venus. Okay. If you want to view it from the lens of Moon, it's still possible, but you have to do a bit of circus here. Moon is disposited by Mars. Mars is in the sign of Venus. That makes it a profession related to Venus. So you have to pay attention to Venus now. And Venus now is going to be conjunct the 10th cusp and Rashi aspecting the 5th and the 9th cusp. So that's the clue. But even from Mars's point of view, Mars is conjunct the Sun. Sun disposits Jupiter, who is the 5th cusp lord and 9th cusp lord. So that gives a profession directly also. Okay. Let's see his motivational speaking. So for that, second from the Moon is holding Mercury, which is the same combination that made him a writer. Now that is influenced by Sun and Mars. That's extremely important. Two fiery planets. That's the planets you need for speaking with motivation. And here this Mars is also extremely passionate because he's in the sign of Venus and is influencing this other sign of Venus on the second Rashi, which is that of speech. Fantastic. Okay. There we also get Mercury, who rules the third cusp and the second cusp, and he's in the second from the Atmakaraka, which is the house of speech. So these are the combinations that make him a motivational speaker. In the Rashi chart, it's not a big problem here. Here the third cusp is conjunct a malefic, which is Saturn, influenced by another malefic, which is Rahu. Okay, it's very powerful because two malefics are on the third. One is exalted. Rahu will behave like an exalted Saturn. That makes it a very powerful motivational speaker. Third house is your communication. Second house is the speech itself. Second lord is Mercury, who is conjunct Venus. That makes him a very gracious speaker, right? Very polite speaker. We saw that it's not agitated Mercury or Venus. But then there is an influence of Mars on this because the dispositor is Jupiter, who is a fiery planet, conjunct another fiery planet, which is Mars. That's an extremely powerful speech that is coming out from that. Okay. So you have to notice the dispositorships also for that. The clue here is Saturn, not in the Navamsha. Navamsha is a bit tricky to pick up actually. The clue you have to pick from the Rashi chart with Saturn on the third cusp. That makes way for a big possibility on being motivational speaker, which is, overcoming the difficulties of life, speaking on such things. And that is the nature of Saturn, right? On his the third cusp when he's exalted. Okay. So those are his simple professions of writing, teaching, and speaking. Then the rest of it we will see in a bit now. Okay. So let's start here. Look at the ascendant. He gets the 12th lord in the ascendant. 12th house is the house of spirituality, sadhana, meditation, and everything. So that already puts him on the path here. Okay. Then 12th lord is also the lord of foreign places. Okay. So he's having a possibility of moving away to a foreign land. This is available here. Just that will not do. So Rahu will aspect the 12th house, and Rahu is on the 10th. Okay. So this is mostly for career centered things, and that is also interesting. Okay. So he did move away from India and he lived in a foreign country, but that's where he continued to teach and publicly give lectures about spirituality and Kriya Yoga and all of that. So Rahu on the 10th, career centered in the foreign country. That's what you'll see. Okay. Then, why does he become a saint? Quite many factors are there. I will give you some very special techniques in this video. Later on in the next future videos, we will go into more details. Okay. First thing is the sun, who is the ruler of the ascendant, is in the 6th house. 6th house is the house of celibacy. Okay. It's the house of service. Spiritual service is seen in the 6th house. Just that will not do it. Okay. You need other factors also to support it. There are multiple factors in his chart that support it. Some I will show you now. Okay. So first point, you get that from the sun. Then we saw that 12th lord is in the Lagna. That's the secondary support. Third support is for a celibate person or a saint, they should be able to go away from the mundane life, especially relationships. So you need a very difficult or a bad 7th house for them, okay, believe it or not, especially to deny marriage. But to give fame, they still need a good 7th house. So it's sort of double-edged sword, okay, because they get something good from their fame and success. If they are enlightened, they will have a lot of media attention and all of that. However, they also need to not be married if they want to have a good chaste celibate life. Okay, so in this case, you will see that his 7th lord is actually Saturn, and Saturn is exalted. Okay, but that exaltation, if you are reading the chart of a normal person, can in fact make them have multiple marriages and a lot of people to date and have sex and all of those things. Depends on what planet gives the exaltation. However, in this case, it is Saturn. Okay, is that enough to give him a no marriage? No. All right. The other thing that goes on in his chart is there is a Saturn Rahu conjunction happening in the signs of Venus, which is basically in his Venus card. Okay, if you see here in the Venus card, he gets a Saturn Rahu conjunction. This is again only in the chakras of Venus, which is the Anahata chakra. He gets that. Okay, that's very important for you to keep in mind. So it's Venus and Libra. Okay, those two are impacted already. Libra is the sign of relationships, but Saturn is exalted. Okay, you cannot give negative things already. Rahu, however, is actually a separating planet, and Saturn and Rahu put together can separate you from relationships. That again is not enough. Okay, because Rahu will behave like an exalted Saturn in this case, but it still has an impact on Libra. You just need to pay attention here. Okay, see that impact, and we will come back to this again. Okay, so the seventh lord apparently gives him marriage if you look at it. So where are we going to conclude on this? Just look at his Navamsha and things will become very evident. So in the Navamsha, he gets a debilitated Venus. Okay, and that debilitated Venus is actually aspecting his seventh house of relationships and the spouse. So no marriage. This denies marriage. Okay. If you know other techniques of Upapada and Pada from Gemini astrology, you can also take a look at that. You will get more ideas. I will not do that in this video. In the next future video, we will come back. Okay. But this is enough to conclude that the chances of marriage are very minimal here. Okay. With a debilitated Venus aspecting the seventh. But then that is not enough. Alright, still not enough. We need to see how good his spiritual path is supported. So for that we have to come back again to Gemini astrology, and in this you'll see that, and Atma Karaka is in the sign of Scorpio in the Navamsha, the D9 chart. And according to Gemini astrology, people who have Atma Karaka in the sign of Scorpio are associated with the Kundalini energy. Okay, they have enormous capability to handle the snakes, and they are exceptional people who can transform their life, given that Mars is in a best possible position for them. Why? Because Mars rules the sign of Scorpio. Okay, and there should be other supporting factors for spirituality. Particularly, the biggest support they need to get is from Ketu and Jupiter. Okay, Ketu being the most important planet there because Ketu is the Moksha Karaka. Jupiter because it's the spiritual path and it's the devotion to that spiritual path that's important. Okay, Venus on the other hand can also be very supportive for them. Depends on what kind of yoga they are into. If there is Bhakti yoga, we are looking into Venus. But if it's anything other than that, we need good support from Jupiter. Okay, so we see that in his case he gets his Atma Karaka in the sign of Scorpio. Okay, that already puts him on the path of spirituality, and that is one of the biggest supporting factors. Is that enough? No, not yet, because we need Ketu involvement here, and you'll see that going on for him. Okay, and this is a bit of an advanced concept in Gemini astrology. When you see the Atma Karaka in the E1 sign, you need to count forwards to see the position. Okay, so if you do that, the 12th house for him will become the sign of Sagittarius, okay, which is ruled by Jupiter, and he gets a Jupiter Ketu conjunction. Fantastic. Okay, the 12th house now from the Atma Karaka is having an influence of both Jupiter and Ketu. It's really nice. Okay, it's one of the best thing you can get as a spiritual person, and that Jupiter is in a fantastic placement. Okay, because it's in the sign of a friend, it's very good Jupiter. And if you know other astrological techniques, you will know for sure that Jupiter Ketu conjunction is one of the best conjunctions you can have for spiritual people. Okay, they are having a deep connection to spirituality because of Ketu, bonding with Jupiter. Of course, they will suffer on other parts of life. For instance, it can deny children, and for a spiritual person, that's what they need. They don't want to have children. Okay, and it can also cause problems with monetary things, Jupiter being a Karaka for wealth. Okay, for women, it will definitely deny children and marriage because Jupiter is the husband also, and it can make them have a karmic relationship with their guru. Okay, it's not one lifetime of relationship they have. It is most often a very karmic relationship, and that is how it was for him. It's not that one time he met Sri Yukteswar and it was clicking for them. It is a karmic bond that they share from multiple lifetimes. Okay, so that is that Jupiter Ketu conjunction also coming into effect here. Okay, so that is just from the Navamsha. Is that enough? No, because we also need to see that from the Rashi chart. Okay, and in the Rashi chart it becomes very clear. Take the same Rashi of Scorpio, which was where this Atmakaraka planet was in Navamsha, juxtapose it into the Rashi chart, you get Ketu in that sign. Now moksha is certain, okay, because Ketu is the moksha karaka here. Then in the signs of Mars, he gets a Jupiter Ketu conjunction also, impacting it, okay, and Mars is also participating in that. And one of the fundamental qualities of Paramahamsa Yogananda, which he is known for, is that he is extremely disciplined. And he was like a very strong minded, strong willed person, which is what we need when it comes to a spiritual yogi. Okay? Because don't ever underestimate the power of Saturn and Mars, spiritual people. Okay? Remember, I've already talked about addictions and problems in the sign of Scorpio and what it can do to normal people when they have both Scorpio afflicted and Venus afflicted. On the other hand, for spiritual people, we want a strong Scorpio and a strong Mars and even a strong Saturn. Okay? Because they have to overcome all these mundane problems of human beings, and that is only possible through the strong discipline of Mars. I've already explained this early in one of the initial videos, but I will reiterate this fact. Okay, because keep in mind that Mars at the end of the day is your no power. Okay, and it's your capacity to deny things that are not good for you. Okay, and to just rebel against it, so that you don't become a victim or prey of your own addictions and your own pathologies and your own problems of life. Okay, it can be to anything. It can be to simple things like chocolates, it can be to TV addiction, it can be to sex addiction, it can be anything that you become a servant of. Okay, you become a servant to it, not that you become a king of it. Okay, that ability to say no comes from Mars. Okay, take an extreme example in this case. You will see the importance of Mars. So Mars, we know, is actually the soldier in the zodiac. Okay, even the commander of the army is also the Mars energy. But you see the discipline of the soldier. For them, it's their discipline that makes them who they are. Okay, they go through rigorous training just to maintain that discipline. That's the very important thing about them. But why is it so important? Because they have to endure such hard training. It's because you see that on the border they're patrolling. Okay, they're protecting your country. Imagine one of the soldiers gets caught and they're in enemy territory. Okay, and now they are being interrogated to release all the secrets of your country, the defense, and all of that. If you have a shitty Mars like how we normal people have on Earth, okay, which is the kind of Mars I'm talking about, like you set a diet plan and you tell, okay, I'm not going to eat ice creams and chocolates for a couple of days or a week unless I lose a couple of pounds. You set a plan, but just the next hour you start craving for chocolates or you start craving for food, especially sugar or whatever it is, or even you don't have control over your own emotions. You start reacting to anything and everything in the world. Okay, you don't have control over your ability to say no to things of life. Okay, the boundaries, and also anything got to do with your food habits to exercise habits. If you cannot stick to that discipline, then that Mars is a very difficult Mars. Okay, so that's what I mean. So imagine that the soldier on the border has this kind of a Mars. So what is the situation of your country now? Your country is going to be invaded or infiltrated in the next moment once he reveals two shots on his face, and he is going to spill out all the beans about the secrets of your country and also the locations of all these important defense things. You want a Mars like that or at your border, or you want a Mars who is going to die in the situation instead of just giving out the secrets? Okay, you want the latter, right? You want a Mars who will die instead of giving out the secret. That is the nature of Mars. Okay, that is a person who is going to be leaving a lasting impact on the world. Okay, that is the nature of Mars that we salute. Why do soldiers get so much of attention and respect once they have died on the battlefield? Because they know that they're heading into war and they may not come back alive. Yet they do that. Yet they take a big risk and they go. And they will prove their capacity of fighting in that war and surviving it if they are lucky, or they may die. But they don't have any problems with that. They may undergo quite a lot of problems in the process of handling it, but they are signed up for that. Okay, it's their profession. And that is their dharma at the end of the day. Okay, so there is no doubt in the mind of a soldier when it comes to the battlefield. So that's what Sri Krishna preaches to Arjuna. in the Bhagavad Gita because he sways away from his Kshatriya dharma. Okay, so you have to really get a grasp of the Bhagavad Gita because at the end of the day, we all are soldiers in this battle of life. Every one of us are battling our own, unique things that we have to overcome. Okay, so it's a very important concept about Mars, and especially on the spiritual path, Mars is the discipline that will take you home. Okay, if you don't have that discipline, forget it. Okay, it's very challenging to make any progress, and it's not an easy thing, and it's important to cultivate that, and it comes with practice. Okay, and it comes with patience. That's why Saturn is important now. Okay, Saturn is the planet that exalts Mars, and Saturn is that detachment, that idea of doing things without any expectations or rewards. In spirituality, you can't go and say, I'm going to sign up for this course and I expect tomorrow to be enlightened. That's not how it works. You need to be patient, you need to persevere, do a lot of hard work, and you need to train. You need to do that same practice over and over again, okay, with enormous patience and detachment to attain liberation or moksha. So people need a very strong Saturn, okay, and that Saturn is important, and it's this planet of Vairagya. We say Vairagya means detachment, okay, so it's very important. Both of them are critical for saints and spiritual people, okay, and you keep in mind also that yogis and saints are much of loner people. They are actually the hermits, and in the zodiac, Saturn is the hermit, okay, because he is the lone planet. He doesn't fit well to the society. He is better off alone than himself, okay. So that helps also having a good Saturn. And coming back to his case, you have Ketu in the sign of Mars. Ketu gives the results of Mars naturally, and then Ketu gives the results of Mars in his case because it's in his own sign, okay. Fantastic. And he gets a Jupiter Mars conjunction, right, and of the ninth house. So this is a very strong-willed person. Okay, keep in mind in astrology, Jupiter, Mars are extremely cooperating in nature. Okay, that helps him to be a motivational speaker. He can pump up your adrenaline. The moment you speak to him, you'll be really in his aura and in his presence. You'll feel that energy gushing out because he's capable of charging you up very quickly. Because Mars is like this power charger to your batteries. Okay, so Kriya Yoga, meditation, any pranayama, exercise, all of that is doing the same. It's pumping you up again back to your fully charged state. Whereas if you have Mars in depletion, Mars in starvation, it will not go to that state. It will always be suffering. Okay, that's the importance here. Then he was a teacher, okay, and he was a yoga teacher. Normally, for that, we need a connection of Jupiter and Mars, okay. In this case, particularly, we need that connection to the ascendant and the ruler of the ascendant and also the Atma Karaka. For him, it does happen here. We have Jupiter and Mars both Rashi aspecting the ascendant, the body, and also the Sun is in the sixth house, which is the house of yoga as well, exercise. So that connects here, and that Jupiter is very strong, okay. And even the Atmakaraka is participating in that, which is the moon aspects Jupiter and Mars, and moon aspects the sun. Fantastic. Okay, so it's pulling off all those things, and the ninth house is involved as well as the sixth house is involved. Ninth house is the house of philosophy and wisdom. For philosophers, they need that for preaching, okay, and they need to defend their philosophy and wisdom. That's why you need a strong Mars on the ninth house. People will challenge you on your way. Even the great Shankaracharya was not left alone. Okay, even he was challenged by many people to defend his own philosophies that he advocated. So they will challenge you, you'll have to defend, and you'll have to be strong willed. Okay, all that is taken care by this fantastic Jupiter Mars conjunction. Then he established schools and institutions to teach yoga and meditation. That was also taken care by this nice Jupiter Mars conjunction. Why? Because that's the wealth yoga in astrology, Jupiter Mars conjunction, that takes care of giving the finances and support for establishing the ninth house, which is the path for spirituality. Okay, then he was considered an articulate speaker. Okay, motivational speaker, and especially those speeches were related to philosophy and wisdom. That you'll see in the sign of Sagittarius, he gets Mercury and Venus. Okay, so the second house of speech, Mercury, is in the sign of Sagittarius, which is a sign of Jupiter, and that Jupiter ruling the fifth house is connected to the ninth house. Fantastic. Okay, because here see the importance of his Mercury and Venus. There is no agitation from the sun. Okay, people who don't have agitation of Mercury through the sun and no starvation from Saturn, they will have very succinct speech, and they will also speak in a way which is soothing and easy to follow, and which will calm you down, and you'll be as easily able to grasp it. They don't struggle with their speech. Okay, then that is also nicely handled by the diplomatic Venus. Fantastic. Okay, so that speech and everything was got to do with Sagittarius, motivation. Okay, Sagittarius is the ninth house, philosophy and wisdom naturally in the zodiac. Okay, why is it a motivation? Because the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, is conjunct Mars, strong willed motivation. Okay, so philosophy, you need good Jupiter, and to pump someone up, you need the fiery planets, which is Mars and the Sun, particularly. Jupiter can also do it because he funnels optimism and joy and wisdom through his preach and teachings. But Venus and Mercury are needed for conveying those things. Okay. He was an author, and that also you see once again that he gets Venus and Mercury in the fifth house, the house of creativity and writing. All right, the planet Venus actually rules Saturn, and that is his seventh lord. And he gets famous writing his autobiography because the seventh lord is exalted in the third house, once again related to media and writing. Third house is the house of writing and media and speech. Okay, so that exalted Saturn, fantastic. And so it's a very famous book, and you cannot underestimate the power of that book. Just by reading that book, you will get into spirituality, into a mode where you reach an exalted state yourself. Okay, that's the nature of that book. And interesting enough, that this third lord is also connected to Mercury. Okay, which is Venus is conjunct Mercury, and that Saturn pulls it off. And he has also made appearances in videos and all those things. Again, the seventh lord is connected to the third. Continuously, we see that from this chart of Farrah Fawcett and also Mel Gibson, and same for a guru, a Paramahamsa Yogananda here. Okay, Rahu on the 10th house, enormous fame and success. Okay, Sarpa Yoga, which I've discussed early on, that also makes him take the path which was not his choice, but that is bounded for him. And Rahu gives an exalted result here because it's giving the results of Saturn naturally, and an exalted result because he's conjunct exalted planet. Okay, Venus is no less here. Venus is in a perfect place. Venus is in the fifth house, who is the ruler of Rahu. Very nice placement. Mars is performing a fantastic job in his chart because Mars does give a Raj Yoga here. He is the ruler of the fourth Rashi and the ninth Rashi, and Mars is in Mula Trikona, a strong Raj Yoga for him. Okay, so this gives the Leo ascendant king-like status. Okay, for creating institutions and teaching and preaching, he also gets his Atmakaraka moon in the sign of Leo, which is meant to create their own kingdom. Okay, they have to establish their own kingdom and be like a business owner at the end of the day. That's a good combination for self-employment. Okay, so those are all the simple things you can see from astrology. You cannot miss these things. Okay, it's very simple, and you have to really know this much information to judge the person's chart, even when knowing that they are a saint. Okay, so to tie those things together may not be so difficult if you know the basics of astrology, because you know the chart. Okay, so you know it's the chart of Paramahamsa Yogananda. You need to now know how to tie them together. But your skill now can be such that you can derive more information just from one single placement. Okay, that comes to your skills. Whereas if I give you a chart without telling you whose chart it is, you may struggle a bit. That I can understand. But knowing the chart of someone that is already famous and it's there in front of you, you should be able to come to some conclusions of why at least the person is famous and what makes them famous, okay, and what is his association with the world and so on. Okay, it's very important. And lastly, just look at the Jupiter Ketu conjunction again, having a karmic relationship with his guru, as well as denying children. Okay, and the fifth lord is also Jupiter, denies children. On the other hand, it still gives him money and fame and success. Why? Because the fifth lord is participating in that Lakshmi Yoga in the ninth house, conjunction to Mars, which is a wealth combination. Mula Trikona Mars is helping him. Denies children but gives him the fame and success through his courses and teaching and books. Okay, ninth house is really nice. It's very powerful for giving a success like that. Okay, so quite many things are going on like that, and we will not go much into details. It will become a full astrology video then. I want to go back to the cards and explain to you from the cards of truth system.